Hi folks, welcome back to Soccer Card Markets, or if it's your first time, welcome. So today, we'll look into what I've sort of titled Stats versus Magic, and for this particular example, just looking into a case study of Ibrahimovic versus Lewandowski. So let's get into it. If we look at the Cold Hard stats here, this is a list of the 18 top all-time goal scorers ever in league football, professional league football. So obviously at the top you've got Ronaldo, Messi, Pele, Romario, and so on, Gerd Muller. What you might be surprised at is who's that guy? Oh, it's Robert Lewandowski. Yeah, he's 12th. Still playing, and still got a few years left in him, and he's got 600 goals already. 12th on the all-time list. And then 14th, not so far behind, you've got Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He had 561 goals over his career, and of course he's retired this year, so that ain't going to change anytime soon. So let's look into some of these stats a bit more and try and separate what makes stats important and what ones are worth looking into and what isn't covered by stats. So the Cold Hard stats here, if we do a direct comparison, you can see Zlatan, he's got 12 league titles. Lewandowski's got 10. Ibrahimovic won a UEFA Cup. No mean feat, not a Champions League, but still impressive all the same. None of these top two European Cups are easy to win by any stretch. Lewandowski won 2019-2020 Champions League. You could argue maybe he should have won one or at least one more maybe. But, one in the bag, not too shabby. Plenty of great players like Ibrahimovic never won one. So when it comes to domestic cups, Zlatan's won 6. Lewandowski, he's only won 3, which I found pretty surprising. You would think in the Bundesliga especially, he would have won more with Bayern Munich. But yeah, only 3. Still, something. But yeah, Ibrahimovic, 3 more there. International cups, 0. Well, Poland and Sweden, not exactly powerhouses of the international footballing scene, although they have had their moments, respectively. And yeah, here you can see total goals, appearances, and goals separate. So Ibrahimovic, 773 appearances, and this is in the league. This does not include international goals. So 773, and then 468 goals, and then Lewandowski 650 appearances, 500 goals. Even internationally, actually, I was a little bit surprised at this. Lewandowski's outscored Ibrahimovic on that regard, not by a huge amount, but it's pretty impressive. Ibrahimovic retired, 41. Lewandowski 6 years younger, and I would imagine he's got at least a couple of good seasons left in his boots. And yeah, in terms of European goals, so most of these Champions League, some Europa Cup or UEFA Cup as it used to be called. Lewandowski nearly 100 goals there, pretty darn good, especially in 136 appearances. That's actually really impressive. Ibrahimovic, you maybe expect him to have scored a few more goals there, but not too shabby, about one every 3 games. And yeah, kind of crucially, the goal ratio. Ibrahimovic is nearly 0.6 goals per game. So he scored at a rate of more than a goal every 2 games. And Lewandowski's 0.73 is really phenomenal. I mean, though, yeah, that's kind of nearing Messi, Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo levels. Got to make that distinction. And then, yeah, goals and assists. This is quite interesting. Yeah, goals and assists. Ibrahimovic actually has like 31 more. And maybe not surprising in a way, given that Ibrahimovic was, yeah, certainly more of a creative player and involved in the build up to goals. A lot more. Excellent dribbler. Good passer, and yeah, just able to hold the ball up a bit better, whereas Lewandowski's was more of a get me the ball and I'll just score kind of guy. Yeah, so pretty interesting comparison between the two there, and yeah, we'll delve into that a bit deeper as this video goes on. So let's compare. Ibrahimovic and Lewandowski, obviously, goats of the games. Some people say, oh, you can only have one goat. Well, whatever. There's the greatest players, and then there's maybe one outstanding person in any particular sport. But yeah, their status well and truly secured. Ibrahimovic retired. Lewandowski coming up to retirement probably, but if Lewandowski retires tomorrow, what he's done in the game is not going to be forgotten anytime soon. Although, yeah, given his amazing achievements, it is incredible how undervalued he is in the hobby itself. Performance-wise, you want consistency. If you're in a team, if you're a manager, if you're a supporter, you just want players to be consistently good, but you want that consistency. And for well over a decade and over 2 decades, in Ibrahimovic's case, both these guys have just delivered time after time, year after year, and won stuff for their teams. Yeah, statistically, there's a few things that Lewandowski beats Ibrahimovic on. He's 6 years younger as well, so some of these things can change. He's got higher goals per game, 0.72 versus 0.6. This is some of the things I covered in the previous slide, but yeah, he's got more Champions League goals, I believe. What was it? Twice as many, 3 times as many. And yeah, Lewandowski, Champions League winner, one of the pinnacles of European football. But having said that, there's a lot of guys that never won the Champions League. Buffon, another all-time legend that didn't win the Champions League, but it hasn't really hampered his collectability or impact on the football scene or in the collecting scene either. Just because him and Ibrahimovic, they're phenomenal in other ways. It transcends caring about Champions League. So having said that about Lewandowski, Zlatan does beat Lewandowski for league titles, domestic cups, as well as having higher goals and assists, which there's every chance Lewandowski might beat by the time he retires. But I think that gives it the idea that Ibrahimovic was not just an outright goal scorer, he was also involved heavily in creating chances for his teams too. Yeah, this doesn't really get touched on much, at least not from what I've seen. Personality and collectability. Not easy to quantify. Certainly can't do it on a stat sheet. But when it comes to fan favoritism, personality is, an undeniable driver of collectability, especially when combined with ability, the really crucial component. Ibrahimovic's personality, obviously never scored him a goal, or doesn't get him assists, or didn't get him trophies, but um, it's a major part of Zlatan's sort of fandom and his legacy. And whereas, Lewandowski's kind of more, kind of seen as a bit more cold and sort of distant, and less sort of reachable footballer, harder to engage with. It's maybe not fair, but that's the perception. And you've got other guys in football that have similar kind of things, like Thomas Muller, Erling Haaland, two other excellent examples of footballers who, you know, you'd almost pay to watch them get interviewed. Like, they always say something different, something amusing, or some interesting soundbite, or like some comedic moment that's just worth watching in itself. Never mind the football. And Thomas Muller's obviously, he came up with the Robert Lewandowski thing, which caught on quite a lot. Still chuckle when I think about it today. Consider it's his second language, even more impressive. So let's look at what stats won't ever tell you. So Lewandowski and Ibrahimovic, they've both broken records for national teams. They have broken records for club sides. For example, Lewandowski beat Gerd Muller's long-standing Bundesliga goals record from the 70s, which seemed almost unobtainable until a couple of years back. And then, Zlatan, he was a PSG top scorer until Neymar and Mbappe came along. So they both, established benchmarks to be broken by future generations. And in terms of stats sort of sheets and spreadsheets and so on, like magic moments in football, there's no metric for them. Like, you can't look back at someone's total goals and be like, oh, they had a special moment in 1978 in January, or whatever it happens to be. So goals in different moments are worth more, without a doubt. I mean, maybe that's obvious to some people, but so other sort of factors that relate to football magic that can't necessarily be measured, can be forgotten when current collectors and newer collectors come onto the scene. The visual joy, the skills, the ability, and also doing the unexpected. That's really high up there. I mean, every football game is like a unique movie, and when players do unexpected things, score a goal, that's just outrageous, or there's an assist that nobody could have conceived happening, or it's a bit of skill. These things, they're the things that people remember in the long term, and that really feeds into the whole collectability in soccer cards and stickers. The sort of obvious example, almost left out because it's so obvious, in terms of sort of a special moment, is Zinedine Zidane's Champions League final goal in Glasgow in 2001, I think it was. So his volley that he scored, like that goal, if he'd scored that in a random La Liga game against Villarreal or whoever, I mean, it would be in his highlights reel, but no one would care half as much about that goal. And the fact it was such an amazing goal in such an amazing place, maybe not. It's Glasgow after all. I'm going to get some hate for that probably, but just the fact it was in in a final of one of the biggest cups in the sport of football. Just a thing of beauty, and tough to top. Yeah, so continuing with the sort of theme of magic moments in football. Yeah, personally, I've watched and seen more Zlatan games than Lewandowski, but from the highlights I've watched and the live moments, yeah, I've witnessed Ibrahimovic doing just downright ridiculous stuff, and not just some random Wednesday football games. These are very high profile football games at club level and for the national team. So I've got, yeah, just a little list here. One of his greatest goals ever, that not many people are aware of. He scored against NEC Breda in the Eredivisie in Holland when he played for Ajax. One of my favourite all-time goals, easily. Beats like 7 players and then just sticks the ball in the back of the net like it's nothing. Absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend you go and have a look at that. And then there's that flick over Buffon at the World Cup in 2002. Italy, one of the most defensive, tough to score against teams, and Ibrahimovic scores just like an outrageous goal with just creative genius against the greatest goalkeeper ever, as far as I'm concerned. Although maybe a certain generation would say Yashin was better, but I don't know. I wasn't alive that back in those days. And then yeah, like Ibrahimovic, he went to play for LA Galaxy and got subbed on, and then he scored a 40-yard, like just smashed a goal in from 40 yards out. I mean, it's just just incredible. Tough to quantify, tough to really, yeah, it's tough to even believe that someone would be capable of that. I mean, it's the sort of thing that a Hollywood scriptwriter would put in a movie and you'd say, yeah, that's ridiculous. So those are the sort of moments I'm really talking about. And speaking of which, yeah, the overhead goal that you can see the little clip there, that Ibrahimovic scored when he was playing for Sweden versus England. It was like an overhead goal kick, or not goal kick, kick from, yeah, about 30 yards out. Just incredible genius on the ball, and invention. And he won a Puskas award for that as well, for the best goal of the season. So those are a few of the highlights of his. Yeah, so let's look at just part of the legacy of Ibrahimovic and Lewandowski. So part of Ibrahimovic's legacy, just astounding moments of brilliance, across multiple clubs, multiple countries, dribbling, goals, the assists, the media, the clips and things that he said that still make me laugh to this day. So you've got all that. I mean, just look at the amount of clubs that Ibrahimovic has played for there. Just the great, some of the great clubs. Maybe not LA Galaxy, obviously, but or Malmo even. But yeah, just an incredible list of success at those clubs. And when it comes to Lewandowski, yeah, so he obviously has his own legacy as more of a sort of downright just ice cold scorer. And you can't downplay his impact at Bayern Munich. And they've just had an astonishing grip on the Meisterschale, the Bundesliga trophy, or shield even, for 10 plus years. No coincidence that Lewandowski, was there for much of that. And yeah, contrary to popular belief, he's not just this guy that just scores tap-ins. He scored some stunning goals in his time. And for example, like he scored 5 goals in 9 minutes in a league game against Wolfsburg. back when Pep was the coach there. I mean, yeah, just have a look at some of his highlights. Obviously, not he hasn't done these things at so many different clubs, which maybe reduces his appeal. The fact that he stayed at Bayern so long. But yeah, I think in time he'll certainly gain the recognition that he deserves. And currently, he's like unbelievably underrated in the collecting world. I mean, just almost astonishingly so. But again, that kind of feeds into this, sort of narrative or memories that people have, and personality and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this next bit, just kind of want to touch on that as well, in terms of maybe more naive or not naive. Yeah, just people that don't have as much knowledge of football, soccer. Um, yeah, like you're going to see a lot of people commenting on players that simply who simply cannot quantify results without bias or sheer stupidity. They're like, "Oh, I love Ronaldo, I hate Messi," or vice versa. Uh, and there's a lot of people like on Reddit, YouTube, wherever, like like millennials, like Mbappe is better than Ibrahimovic, and stupid arguments like this. But believe it or not, things like that really do drive some of the hobby. So just be aware of these sort of things when it comes to collecting, and yeah, don't let other people influence you too much either way, and think for yourself and do some research yourself as well. And yeah, there's a lot of people talking about soccer card collecting, or just football in general, that they've just not seen enough football. They really don't know what they're talking about. They maybe know what they're talking about for the last 2 years or like 5 years, but that's a very short span of knowledge, and it certainly doesn't cover the last, well, like the modern age of soccer collecting. So a lot of these people literally don't know what they're talking about, because they don't have the experience in the sport, having seen enough games. And yeah, and of course there's people out there, trying to influence you to buy these cards, or like buy into, whoever it is, some bullshit cards or whatever, who maybe have an agenda, or maybe they're just trying to be correct. People want to be right, um, but when things are subjective, it's you know people people just make up whatever they want. So that's just something to be aware of. I'm actually not sure why I even stuck that in there, but anyway, let's continue. Yeah, in terms of collecting history, this also feeds into like what makes cards collectible and what doesn't. Yeah, so retired players like Ibrahimovic, or like further back like Ronaldo, Romario, Pele, and those guys. These are legacy secure players. They can be seen as less attractive in terms of collecting now, because, well, if you never saw them play, I think there's a certain lack of appreciation that anybody can have if you haven't seen players playing live, across several years or even decades. Um, yeah, retired players, they like Ibrahimovic, obviously won't be doing anything again on the pitch. Probably in a charity game or something, but beyond that, nothing. So there can be a justifiable lack of interest. They're not in the media. There's a recency bias. Like people tend to remember what happened last week, but they don't remember what happened, a month back. And yeah, I think this goes for anybody that collects. If you haven't seen a player play, you probably won't value them as highly. Certainly not until you've done quite a lot of research, or watching, clips and highlights and stuff like that of past players. You're kind of being guided by people that have seen those players who have hyped them up from different generations. Yeah, and speaking of that, every generation has collectible players. You obviously got Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, Haaland, Pele, Cruyff, Maradona, all those guys. Sort of obvious examples, but relevant nonetheless. But one thing you can say for players that have kind of done it, and no matter what they do, their status is secured in sort of football folklore. Is the legacy is secured, can't be undone. Although one caveat to that obviously is you never can be sure when a player might be involved in a little bit of a scandal. Mason, what? Anyway, have fun with it. Researching and creating your own value for collecting your cards. And yeah, here's kind of a little bit silly, but a little bit of a kind of teaser here. So just want you to have a little think about who this player could be, or who this player is, and yeah, you might be a little bit surprised at the answer. So who am I? I'm regarded as one of the all-time greats of the modern era. In 506 appearances as a professional soccer bowler. I'm not sure why I wrote it that way. I had a total of 124 goals and assists. So who could that be? I'll leave it a second so you can have a little think. It's this guy, Zinedine Zidane. Yeah, so when it comes to stats and magic and all that kind of stuff, Zinedine Zidane is a perfect example of a player who statistically, he doesn't rate anywhere near as high as his contemporaries or any modern players, even like since he's retired. His stats are incredibly underwhelming. But for those fortunate enough to watch them play in live matches, what set him apart was the monumental moments on the biggest stages in the biggest cups. So we're talking World Cup, Champions League, and the biggest leagues in Europe. So Zidane only had 124 goals and assists combined. This doesn't include international stuff, but still, I mean, like Modric, his goals and assists combined, I think, is north of 400. Some players, you wouldn't necessarily think of or have easily surpassed that goals and assists ratio. So the one guy I kind of brought into this, who was also a sort of playmaker, expert, dribbler, creative genius, is Francesco Totti of Roma. His goals and assists combined over his career, one club man, rare, 399. Not bad, huh? So more than 3 times Zidane's goals and assists combined for Francesco Totti. He played in Serie A, so he only won one league title with them. And yeah, one of the most undecorated players of his generation. If he'd gone to a bigger club or had a bit more exposure, he certainly would be more collectible now. I'm sure he has his own niche of collectors, but if you ask the majority of people, pick one, Zidane or Totti, they'd pick Zidane. He's just that guy that people think of when it comes to phenomenal footballers. But yeah, it makes you think though. So there's quite a lot of these sort of elements to collecting soccer cards, and yeah, that's certainly a surprising one. It surprised me when I looked into it. Um, and yeah, I mean, Totti he even won a World Cup, but outside of Serie A, I don't know, it just didn't get the exposure that could have boosted Totti's popularity. But he is one of those guys. Looking back, I think people appreciate much more how great he was. So yeah, both phenomenal talents, but the crucial thing is Zidane is seen as the greater generational talent of the two. Therefore, he's just more collectible. People will pay more for his cards and stickers, and that's just the way things are just now. Could change, but yeah, probably not. And yeah, just in conclusion, yeah, figuring out all these sort of details, working out what means most to you. It's all kind of part of the fun of the whole card collecting thing, and yeah, just have fun with it, and figure out what rookies you want, who you don't, and who you think's going to be great next season or who has potential. That's what I enjoy doing, anyways, and yeah, I hope you do too. So thanks for watching this video. Soccer card markets over and out.